Robert Kiyosaki grew up with two father figures who shaped his understanding of money in completely different ways. One was his biological father, an educated man with a secure job, a man who believed in school, stability, and climbing the professional ladder. The other was the father of his best friend, a man with little formal education but a sharp understanding of business, investing, and how money truly works. These two men became known as his poor dad and his rich dad. Their ideas pulled him in two different directions, and the lessons Robert learned from comparing them became the foundation of this book. Poor Dad believed in the traditional path: study hard, get good grades, find a safe job, work your way up, and retire with a comfortable pension. He believed job security was everything. He respected education and saw money as something earned through hard work. Rich Dad had a completely different philosophy. He believed that working for money traps people in the rat race. He believed the real key was learning how to make money work for you, how to buy assets, how to invest, and how to build systems that create income without your constant effort.
Growing up between these two mindsets, Robert noticed something strange. His poor dad had a stable job, a degree, and a respectable career, yet he often felt financial pressure. His rich dad, who had far less formal education, kept growing wealthier. The difference was not money, it was mindset. Rich Dad thought differently, acted differently, and handled opportunities differently. One of the first lessons Robert learned was that the rich don't work for money. Instead, they understand how money works and use it to build assets. When Robert was young, Rich Dad gave him a job at one of his small stores. The pay was tiny. It wasn't meant to be a job. It was meant to frustrate him. After a few weeks, Robert complained. He felt exploited. But that was the lesson. Rich Dad wanted him to feel what most people feel, working hard for little reward. And then he explained the truth. The poor and middle class work for money. The rich make money work for them. Most people wake up, go to work, collect a paycheck, spend it on bills, and repeat. They depend on a job for survival. Their fear of not having money keeps them in the cycle. But the wealthy focus on assets. An asset is something that puts money in your pocket even when you're not working. Rich Dad explained that most people confuse assets with liabilities. People think their house is an asset. They think their car is an asset. But in reality, a house costs money each month. A car drains money through insurance and repairs. These are liabilities. Real assets, Rich Dad explained, are things like rental properties, investments, businesses, stocks, and intellectual property. These generate cash flow. These grow over time. These are what create freedom. Poor Dad, despite having a good salary, had expenses that grew as his income grew. A bigger house, a nicer car, more bills. Rich Dad invested his income into assets that multiplied. This led to another powerful lesson. Financial literacy matters far more than a high income. Schools teach math, science, and history, but they rarely teach money. Without financial literacy, even people with high salaries remain trapped. Poor Dad was educated but financially insecure. Rich Dad, with far less schooling, understood debt, taxes, investing, and business. He explained that wealth isn't about how much you earn. It's about how well you manage, keep, and grow what you earn. Rich Dad also taught that emotions control most financial decisions. Fear keeps people in jobs they dislike. Fear makes them avoid opportunities. And desire makes them spend money they don't have on things they don't need. The fear of being poor pushes them to work harder. The desire for comfort pushes them to spend more. This is the rat race. The cycle never ends because emotions make people act without thinking. Rich Dad encouraged Robert to think clearly, not emotionally.
He also emphasized the importance of learning skills rather than chasing jobs. Poor Dad believed in stable careers. Rich Dad believed in becoming valuable. Skills like sales, communication, leadership, management, marketing, and investing open doors that a job title never will. Robert learned that every skill he develops becomes a tool for creating wealth.
One unforgettable lesson was the principle of paying yourself first. Most people pay bills first, pay expenses next, and save whatever tiny amount is left over. Rich Dad believed the opposite. Invest first, save first, build assets first. That forces discipline and creativity. When money is tight, most people panic. Entrepreneurs solve problems. Paying yourself first builds confidence and financial strength. Rich Dad also revealed how the rich use corporations. Corporations provide tax benefits, protection, and control. Employees work, get taxed first, and spend what's left. Business owners earn, spend, invest, and then get taxed. Financial literacy isn't only about assets and liabilities. It's about understanding the rules of money that most people never learn.
Robert also learned that opportunities are everywhere, but only people who train their minds can see them. Poor Dad waited for the right moment. Rich Dad created the right moment. Poor Dad avoided risk. Rich Dad studied it and managed it. When people say, "I can't afford it," they close their minds. When people ask, "How can I afford it?" their minds open. Questions drive intelligence. Excuses kill it. The book also discusses the excuses people use to avoid learning money. Fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, and arrogance all keep people stuck. Rich Dad believed that self-doubt is more destructive than any economy. He taught Robert that money can be lost and regained, but time cannot. So the sooner you start learning about money, the better your future becomes. In the end, Robert realized that wealth has little to do with luck, background, or intelligence. It comes from daily choices, small decisions, and the courage to think differently. It comes from building assets, controlling emotions, learning continuously, taking calculated risks, and refusing to follow the crowd blindly. It comes from breaking the mindset that says you must work for money, and instead embracing the mindset that money can work for you.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad is not a book about getting rich quickly. It's a book about becoming financially intelligent. It's a book about questioning old beliefs, replacing them with smarter ones, and building a foundation that leads to freedom. Poor Dad believed in security. Rich Dad believed in opportunity. Poor Dad said, study hard to get a job. Rich Dad said, study money so the job isn't your only option. Poor Dad feared risk. Rich Dad feared staying the same. Robert learned that you don't become wealthy by accident. You become wealthy by thinking differently, acting intentionally, and surrounding yourself with ideas that elevate your financial life. Wealth is not in your bank account. Wealth begins in your mind. When your mind changes, your habits change. When your habits change, your future changes. This book leaves you with a simple truth. Anyone can become financially free, regardless of where they start. But you must learn what schools don't teach. You must develop the courage to break old patterns, and you must build assets patiently until your money begins to work for you. That is the philosophy that transformed Robert's life, and it can transform yours too.
If you enjoyed this summary, make sure to subscribe to MindReads for more powerful book insights delivered straight to you. Sharing this video with your friends helps the channel grow and brings these lessons to more people who need them. And let me know in the comments, what book should I summarize next? Your suggestion might be the next video on this channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next summary.